of her work, which involves the relationship between logistics and free zones. Now, there's one thing I want to actually just talk about while you're settling and sitting down. Professor Xavier was saying that 40,000 years ago, the needle was invented. Do you remember? And we're still using the needle today, aren't we? And part of these sort of panels and discussions usually involve what is the free zone of the future going to look like? Well, perhaps it's going to look pretty much like the free zones that exist today. The reason I say this is because if you remember, in the 1960s, there were all these comics that came out with projections of what life would be like in the year 2000. I don't know if you remember this sort of thing, but they had images of us with backpacks and a wonderful world of robots not having to do work and so on. Does it exist? Unless you're on a manufacturing floor somewhere, the answer is no. It's pretty much life ticks over the same, right? And that's what interests me, free zones. How are you going to change? What is going to become the free zone of the future? Is it us going back in time, like Professor Xavier was saying, simplifying, embracing past knowledge? Or are things going to change? Or is it just going to be pretty much business as usual for a long time to come? Well, I'm glad that most of you have come back now. Please join me in welcoming Liliana Rivera to talk about the relationship between free zones and logistics. She is the research affiliate at MIT, the MIT Center for Transportation and Logistics. Liliana. Thank you. I believe we need a pointer. Who can help? Can I suggest that you go up and I will sort it out? A clicker.
I'm going to use it.
There.
Okay, good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank Samir for the invitation to speak at this event. I'm going to talk to you about the relationship between logistics, supply chain, and free trade zones. Free trade zones around the world offer several benefits. These benefits can be divided into economic incentives, such as preferential tax rates, and also other financial benefits, and more operational incentives, such as logistics incentives. These are the result of benefits from being located in a competitive place with reliable infrastructure and operational advantages that help in the simplification of administrative processes. Today in this presentation, I'm going to focus mostly on the second group of incentives. First of all, I'm going to start talking about the relationship between logistics and international trade. There is a positive relationship between the logistics performance of a country and the level of international trade of that country. This is important, or this is expected, given that the role of logistics is to help companies to ship their products to other countries efficiently and timely. This is also important for the competitiveness of countries because companies can be producing goods efficiently and at low cost, but by the time they ship those products to other places, they lose the competitive advantages because of problems with infrastructure, logistics, and transportation. Regarding investment, there is a positive trend of investment in logistics in the recent years, but further investments are needed if we want to guarantee a continuous improvement. Therefore, a country that wants to be a leader in international trade should have a good logistics sector. The increasing trend of globalization and the changes and the increasing trend also of international trade has gradually changed the logistics operation from a door-to-door operation to a node-to-node operation. These nodes are what I call logistic clusters around the centers of the global supply chain. These clusters receive shipments from all over the world, from different places, with multiple destinations to be shipped to. And these shipments are transferred from one mode of transportation to another for consolidation, deconsolidation, and transshipment. Therefore, logistic clusters encourage or comprises three types of companies. The first one is logistics firms, such as 3PLs. The second one is the logistic division of industrial firms, for example, a distribution center of a manufacturing firm. And the third one are logistics company with logistics intensive operations for whom logistics represent a large part of their cost. For example, bulk commodity distributors or automobile manufacturers. So why logistic clusters? Logistic clusters actually provide logistics efficiency and involve significant resources. I would like to point out that many governments in the world are investing considerable resources to either develop or expand logistic clusters. These investments are driven by the expectation of positive effects on the economy. As the World Bank has said, everyone wants to be a logistic cluster, a central hub. Just to give you a couple of examples, Panama has a 10-year plan to position the country as the logistics center for the Americas. This plan goes hand in hand with the expansion of the Panama Canal. Returns around $1.5 billion are expected, along with the creation of more than 30,000 direct and indirect jobs only in value-added services by 2020. In similar fashion, the Dallas Logistics Hub is being created with more than $500 million invested in the surrounding areas comprising 4 counties. A significant proportion of the resources, 25%, comes from public sources. The hub is expected to create more than 60,000 direct and indirect jobs with an estimated economic impact of more than $60 billion for the region by 2035. So when you look at all of these initiatives around the world, you notice that there are 5 common factors that all the successful clusters have. The first one is to have a competitive advantage on location. Contrary to other clusters, logistic clusters cannot be developed everywhere. So they can be developed in a place with a natural competitive advantage on location. This, of course, involves to have a place with a lot of connectivity, or at least potential connectivity, and also a place with good weather conditions. The second one is political support. And again, this is a distinctive characteristic of logistic cluster, because in other clusters, the role of the government is actually to do nothing. But in logistic clusters, the role of the government is very important. So you need to have political support in setting up the rules for businesses. For example, how the use of the land is going to be defined. Also, the government helped to attract firms to the cluster. This is the case of the Dutch agency that the government have all around the world, basically trying to attract companies to go to the Netherlands. And a third role of the government is actually to help in guarantee the sustainability of the cluster. The third factor is to have a reliable infrastructure, and this is perhaps the most known factor usually. But when I'm talking about infrastructure, I'm not talking only about transportation infrastructure. I'm talking also about electricity, water infrastructure, and the most important, information and communication technologies. Of course, since we are talking about a logistic cluster, it's important to have at least 2 modes of transportation and intermodality. The fourth successful factor is administrative efficiency, and this is related with the fact that actually in clusters you need to provide a friendly business environment that helps, for example, in efficient custom clearance processes. And the fifth one is human capital. And this is really important because actually people, it's a key asset of logistic clusters. So if you have good people, proactive, loyal, and then wants to continue working, you are going to have positive externalities not only for the company and the cluster, but also for the region, for the local economy. So with that in mind, what is the force behind the successful and all of this popularity of logistic clusters around the world? Basically, logistic companies move to logistic clusters because they want to enjoy the advantages of economies of scale, economies of scope, because being all together in the clusters allows them to have higher capacity utilization, higher conveyance use, and more direct, less truckload shipments, and more inbound and outbound routes. This, in turn, attracts more carriers to move into the park or into the cluster, which means more services, that more services are going to be offered. This, in turn, will mean better transportation services and lower transportation costs for the companies, which, again, will attract more companies to come into the cluster, and we continue creating a continuing feedback loop. So that continuing feedback loops generate some benefits for companies, for workers, and for local economies. In the case of the benefit for companies, the first one is collaboration. In the proximity to the cluster, all the firms enjoy higher levels of collaboration in terms of transportation capacity sharing, resource sharing, and and also firms cooperate to solve common problems by lobbying with the government. Just to give you a quick example, there is a cooperation between Zara, Inditex, the clothing company, and Caladero, which is a fish distributor in Spain. They both are located in Plaza, which is the largest logistic park in Europe. And Inditex sends clothes to South Africa, and Caladero brings fish to Spain. Of course, they are doing this using the same planes, and it's having a lot of reduction in cost for the companies. A second example is Vermont Teddy Bears. This is actually, they have a peak in demand before Valentine's Day. So if you visit their hub, the distribution hub in Louisville, Kentucky, the week before Valentine's, you are going to see that they are using not only warehousing space, but also equipment and workers from other neighboring companies. Of course, when another company has a peak in demand, they are going to be able to use Vermont Teddy Bear's resources. Another important benefit is value-added services, which are related with postponement and customization, returns and repairs, and kitting and packing. A quick example of what value-added services are is the example of Flextronics. Flextronics is a company that works with repairs of computers. So basically, if you are in the US and you have a problem with your laptop, you have a broken laptop, you just will send it to a FedEx, with a FedEx facility that night at 8 p.m., and then it will take to Flextronics Hub in Memphis, repair the computers, and this computer will go back to the customer the next morning. So this is less than 24 hours, and they can do that because they are in a cluster where the hub of FedEx is as well, and also the Delta hub, and you have a lot of logistic service providers. In terms of benefit for workers, I'm going to talk about mobility, and this is related with the fact that logistics is one of those industries that hires people with low levels of education and offers them the chance to progress in the labor market because it values on-the-floor experience. And clusters enhance even more this phenomenon because of the concentration of firms. There are several examples. I'm just going to tell you that if you talk to people in UPS, they are going to say that they have been in the company 7, 8 years, and they are just babies. Because people in logistics industry stay for 20, 25 years, 30 years in the same company, or at least in the same industry in logistics. It is because logistics takes a lot of people in entry-level positions, but also offers educational opportunities. As for the benefits for local economies, which is the third type of benefits, there are two important things that I should mention. The first one is that logistic clusters actually create not only blue-collar jobs, but also white-collar jobs. And the second one is that since logistics plays a supportive role to other industries, the development of a logistic cluster actually incentives the development of other industrial subclusters. And to give you some idea of the economic impact that I'm talking about, I have the numbers of Alliance Texas, which is a triple free zone in the US. They created more than 20,000 direct jobs, more than 60,000 indirect jobs, an estimated economic impact of more than 30 billion, and a return rate of 11%. So at this point, you should be wondering, what is the relationship between logistic clusters and free zones? And some authors had mentioned a conceptual relationship, but I actually took data from the US and estimated the impact. And I found that there is a high correlation between the location of logistic clusters and free trade zones in the US. So the clusters are actually the polygons. Okay, and the free zones are the dots that you can see there. So with that in mind, the next question is, will free zones be able to play the role of logistic clusters and act as the nodes of the global supply chain? And with that in mind, I just look at the websites of some of the free trade zones and try to see what is the supply of logistic services that is offered today. And there are some services like storage, picking, assembling, inventory control. So my next idea is, why not to offer actually the same benefits related to collaboration initiatives and value-added service initiatives that are happening right now in clusters? And with that, I just want to summarize what I talked to you today. Logistics is a sector that plays a supportive role to other sectors, that's fueling the development of other industries. Logistic clusters are employment engines. They attract more companies and encourage the development of several benefits. And there is a relationship between free zones and logistic clusters. So perhaps in the future, free zones could offer more incentives and more services related to logistics to companies, workers, and local economies. And I would like just to conclude my presentation, inviting you to all to think about providing more logistic services and more incentives, more collaboration, and value-added service initiatives, because I think the future of the free trade zones is there. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that, Liliane. In fact, what I took away from that was that the best free zones are those that become self-sustaining entities and where collaboration is key. And we come back to this issue of exchange, where collaboration and exchange amongst the people in the free zone is key. Now, let's move on to the next panel. To save time, I shall just throw to the participants. Professor Francois Bost, please, to the stage. Jin Wang, Rajesh Parikh, PC Nambiar, His Excellency Mr. Nasser Schreider, and Klaus Heschmeyer.
The beep, please. Please, is it possible to have the beep for the PowerPoint? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very happy to be among you today to animate this conference, which is dedicated to a state of art on the place of free zone in the world. We will examine the situation in the two most important emerging countries, India and China, and after in the Near and the Middle East. I am Francois Bost. I am professor of economic geography at the University of France in France. and the moderator of this conference. Since 15 years, I am studying free zones in the world. It is in this capacity that I became a member of the board of directors of the World Free Zone Organization to bring my academic skills. I take this opportunity to thank the World Free Zone Organization, in particular Mr. Mohamed Al-Zarouni and Mr. Samir Amrouni for the trust they gave me. 4 years ago, I published a large book, this one, 1 kilo of free zones. The Atlas Mondial des Zones Franches, in English, World Atlas of Free Zones, but only in French. I am very sorry, but nobody is perfect. It provides a comprehensive overview of almost free zones in the world. 4 years ago, the free zone was 1,735 and distributed in 135 countries, as you can see in this beautiful map. Actually, I am working to refresh this atlas, but in English and with new map, new statistic, new information. This very innovative atlas will be available in a few months on the website of the World Free Zone Organization. Free zones have expanded apace with the trend of trade liberalization and with the openness of virtually all countries to the market economy. They have also contributed to the surge in international trade on FDI, particularly in the developing countries and in Eastern Europe since 25 years. On this score, free zones are readily claimed as important, indeed decisive, tools and mechanisms for gaining entry to the spiral of development because of the spillover effect they may have at different scales on local and national economies. But the extent of these effects varies greatly, depending on the country and the geographic area in question. Over the decades, free zones is thus gradually imposed by their exceptional advantages on their role as facilitator to the companies and investors. Tangible sign of the interest towards them, free zones policy have been promoted in the developing countries by several multilateral agencies, United Nations, Organization for Industrial Development, World Bank, OECD, etc., or bilateral agencies like Overseas Private Investment Corporation in America, which gave them bail of right. World Trade Organization has also learned to deal with them, despite the departure from the principle of free competition, because free zones are one of the few ways in many poor countries for industrialization and enter in the international trade. However, all zones are not intended to become the hubs of the global economy. The indisputable success of many zones must not make us forget the successes in Halftown and even the failures of some of them. It is a sign that a model that has been proven in a country is not necessarily transposable to the same in another country and in another socio-economic context. But all zones have the same vocation, a better integration of local economies in the mechanism of the world economy. I have pleasure to introduce you 5 speakers on this conference, and at the outset, Mr. P.C. Nambiar, which is chairman of the Indian Council for Special Economic Zone in India. Mr. Nambiar, you have the floor. Thank you very much.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon. I know it is a very tough task to speak to you after a heavy lunch, but I hope you have not eaten much to sleep. Start with the zone development in India has been very, very successful. And it contributes almost 31% of India's exports from the zones. However, India is a very complex country, as many of you may not know. We have 29 states and 7 union territories having an autonomous authority to regulate any trade and the activities. The federal government got its standing order, which the central government cannot intervene. Similarly, on central government subjects, state government cannot intervene. Therefore, we have to marry both federal government and central government and to make a regulation for any economic activity in the country. It is very difficult. However, the subjects of land, labor, these are all the subjects of state government, where central government has very least control over it. For any economic zone development, it is absolutely necessary to have freedom to select the land and also to even reform the labor. Apart from that, this is the evolution of zone development in India. The free trade zone, export processing zone, in whatever name and style, were started way back in 1965 by the central government. And from 1965 to 1974, almost about 7 zones have been developed by central government. The 74 to 95, the state governments developed another about 11 SEZs. We never had a comprehensive law. We have been approaching the zone development in a very ad hoc manner, basically only to promote exports. Even the objective of zone development was never been create a conducive environment for economic development. It is basically we have been a poor country. We have to create certain employment opportunity, earn more foreign exchange. But it was in the year 2005 we drafted the first comprehensive law called SEZ Act, and 2006 it becomes operational. As of today, there are 437 formally approved special economic zones in the country. If somebody heard me about a year back in London or 1.5 years ago in Malaysia, the figure would have been 582. So from 582 to 437, there is a decline because many of the not very serious players have opted out from the zone development. The land in India is owned by private individuals and enterprises. It is not by the government. Therefore, if you have enough land, you can make a proposal for the development of a zone by yourself, and over a period of time, because of various reasons, probably it's not commercially viable, then almost 150 people have decided to opt out from the zone development. As of today, there are 437 proposals that have been approved by the government of India. Out of 437, 348 the zones have been notified. Notified would mean it has been now gazetted to be and meant to be used only for zone development. It cannot be used any way without the government permission now. Out of these 348, there are 202 the zones operational now. I have 9 minutes, therefore I have to rush it. Now, out of the 29, the states, 9 states do not have any presence of the special economic zone. It is not because economically it does not make sense. It is a political the decision of the respective state government whether to organize a zone or not. There are political will has to be done. It is not there. 3 out of 7 units do not have the zone presence. And since the state government the federal government got an absolute authority to regulate legislate the tax and duties, there in India, we do not have a uniform practices or uniform regulation for the incentives to be given for the zone development and zone users. Does it move? Sorry. From the 65 to 2014, the total investment in the originally central government sponsored zones is only $1.98 billion. In the state government sponsored, as I said, it is $1.7 billion. Now look at from 2006, when a comprehensive law being enacted for the zone development operation, $50.08 billion have been invested in the private SEZs. This is the growth of the zone in India. The total is $53.76 billion. Now, what is the objective of the zone development today in India is basically to attract more investment, create more employment, and also export and foreign exchange. Because out of 1.2 billion people, we have 65% of our people are in the age of 25 to 35. We have to create an employment opportunity for them, and the zone has been very, very effective in that manner. The FDI is only $2.8 billion. The all other investment are internally, they are domestic. See, direct employment, which have been created, where they are, the people who are drawing wages from zones, on a monthly basis, is this. This total is about 1.4 million people we have been able to provide the employment in SEZ in India. Investment has 50 point, and the 1.4 million people we have employed. And in terms of exports, in terms of the product mix, out of 202, 10% is almost, the multi-product SEZs. There are textiles, plastics, chemical, engineering, automobile, all those sectors. There are ITES is 56%. Other sector-specific manufacturing is 32%. And services is 2%. This is the breakup of the sector mix of the SEZs in India. So generally, there is a feeling that India's SEZs are only for ITES. It is not so. Only 56% ITES, 44% is the manufacturing. What helped us to have a certain growth of zone in the country is basically the single window clearance. If you would want to set up any trading activity within the country, you have to have a multiple licenses from the local government, the state government, and the central government. The zone authority, we have a single window clearance. You have to make one application through the development commissioner to the board of approval, and the 22, the department representatives sit together in one day, and all the approvals are granted in one single window. Therefore, we are able to commence the activity very fast. We are able to get the license very fast. We are able to start our activity in the zone very fast. This is at the central government as well as state government level. Whichever there is a unit approval committee under the state government, there again, all the state department people sit together, decision makers sit together, they peruse the application, and they are given and clearance in, say, the said meeting. There are only two meetings have been conducted, one at central level and one at state level, and all the permissions are granted. This is the way in India the SEZ operates. And there is a misconception about the SEZ operation in India. SEZ, Special Economic Zone, is physically controlled by the Customs Department. All the customs law and regulation is applicable in the SEZ. In the Special Economic Zone, in the main gate, there is only one exit, one entry, and in both places there are customs men sitting. And without their physical verification of the goods, cannot go inside, it cannot go out. There is a physical control. However, the documentation with reference to the customs is the electronically, EDI, electronic data interchange. It is online. Once the moment a document is punched at the, especially the economic zone gate, it is get transferred immediately to the central government and the state government. And all the data, trade data, can be collected from single source, which have been monitored by the NSDL. So the documentation is automated. There is a physical control, but physical control does not mean that they open every cases. Under the trade facility agreement under the WTO, we follow those regulations very, very strictly. What are the incentives? Any enterprise would like to develop a special economic zone. All the the building material, all the capital goods, whatever the item required for creating the infrastructure, it is free of all the central government duties and state government duties. Similarly, any operator operating in the SEZ, what are the capital equipment, raw material, component, consumable, packed material required by him for producing the goods or for providing services is totally free of the national duties as well as state duties. And similarly, any services which have been provided within the zone for the operation, it is absolutely free of the service tax. This is called indirect taxation. Now there is a direct tax benefits available to you. If you are a developer of the free zone, you can select a block of 10 years out of 15 years. The 10 years block of that entire profit is tax-free, no direct tax payable. Similarly, any unit which is operating in the special economic zone, which manufacture goods and export, or providing services from the zone to anywhere outside India, whatever the profit generated, the first 5 years is 100% direct tax free. Next 5 years, 50%. Then next 5 years, again 50%, provided the earlier 50% is being earmarked for the diversification expansion or reinvestment. 100% FDI is allowed in the automatic route, and no cap on the for the FDI on the reserved items. Setting up offshore banking is allowed because in India the bank interest rate is very high. Is sometimes somewhere 12 to 14%, whereas an offshore banking will give a LIBOR plus 2 or 3 points. That facility is available. So easy finance are available through the offshore banking system, and all the offshore banking operations working in the zone. This is for 50% of the net profit is exempt for 3 years. External borrowing up to $500 million a year allowed without any maturity restriction by the Reserve Bank of India. Exchange on a foreign currency account, that would mean any dollar earned by the bank or the unit can be held in dollar term, so without it is not subject to any exchange rate fluctuation. Therefore, dollar is available to you. You can use it for any remittance, any purpose for remittance abroad. And the environmental clearance is given automatic, and all the norms for, depending upon the the type of industry like biotechnology, gem and jewelry, labor intensive, all those cases, norms are given, certain flexibility is given at the time of approval. These are the one of the few operational the successful zones in the country, and this is the My SEZ which have developed. This is the first biofarm SEZ developed in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nambia, for this very interesting presentation on the situation of India, which is complex and ultimately quite poorly known. Let me ask you one question, calling for a short answer. India is often presented as a country very complicated in terms of its bureaucracy. What exactly as regards free zones?
In free zone, as I clearly mentioned to you, central government as well as state government has created a committee all the departments have been represented in one committee, in one meeting. This is approving given, number one. Number two, once this established, there is no intervention by any department in that, the zone. If anybody would like to come and, verify anything, Development Commission has to give an approval in writing. So therefore, absolutely hassle-free operations is granted within the bonded premises. This special economic zone is bonded by the boundary wall with a gate. It cannot be just go and come. Therefore, exit and entry is regulated through the representative of the Development Commissioner posted from Customs Department.
Thank you very much. Now it's time to examine the situation in China, and especially the recent development in Shanghai. Ms. Jing Wang, Vice Chairwoman, China Pilot Free Trade Zone. You have the floor, please.
女士们、先生们，大家下午好！非常高兴参加世界自由区组织年会，这为我们向各国自由区学习提供了难得的学习机会。在此，我简要介绍一下中国上海自由贸易实验区的情况。
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is my great honor to attend the first World Free Zones Organization International Conference and Exhibition, an event that provides us a good opportunity to learn from all the free zones in the world. On this occasion, I would like to give a brief introduction about China-Shanghai Pilot Free Trade Zone.
为适应经济全球化的新形势，中国新一届政府做出了全面深化改革、扩大开放的战略部署。其中，建设上海自由贸易实验区就是新一轮对外开放的重要内容。上海自由贸易实验区作为一项国家战略，主要承担的是2项重大的任务。第一呢是扩大开放，就是顺应国际贸易通行的规则，试行负面清单管理，扩大服务业开放。二呢是全面深化改革，就是创新政府管理的方式，建立与国际通行规则相衔接的基本制度框架，形成可复制可推广的成果。自13年9月29日挂牌以来，上海自贸实验区重点在投资、贸易、金融、监管4大领域进行了制度创新，加大了对外开放的力度，取得了重要的成果。
To follow the new trend of economic globalization, China developed a strategic plan to deepen reform and opening up, of which China-Shanghai Pilot Free Trade Zone is a crucial part. China-Shanghai Pilot Free Trade Zone showed us 2 major responsibilities. The first is to expand the scope of opening up, which means to follow the development trend of international trade and investment through the negative list management system and opening up measures in the service sector build itself into a test bed for more proactive opening up programs. The second is to intensify all-round reform, which means to innovate government administrative approaches, establish a basic institutional framework aligned with international practices, and explore successful experiences that can be rolled out nationwide. Since its official launch on September the 29th, 2013, China-Shanghai Pilot Free Trade Zone has been strengthening its opening up efforts by exploring institutional innovations in fields like investment, trade, finance, and regulation, which yields remarkable initial results.
我讲的时候，你 PPT 不要换。
好的。
在投资管理领域，我们是以准入前国民待遇加负面清单为核心的投资管理制度已基本建立，先后发布了13年、14年、15年的负面清单，外商投资准入特别管理措施调整到122条，开放度、透明度进一步提高。目前，外商投资90%是以备案方式设立，外资备案当场可以完成。区内新设的外资投资企业超过了3000家。同时，为进一步提升投资开放度，先后在服务业、制造业领域推出了一系列的开放举措。今年我们将推出新一批的扩大开放举措，选择部分行业探索实施统一的市场准入制度。
In the field of investment management, an investment management system built on pre-establishment national treatment and a negative list has been established. Shanghai unveiled the first negative list in 2013 and reviewed it in 2014, giving equal treatment to domestic and foreign invested enterprises. Last month, the State Council updated the list, reducing the number of restricted industries to 122 for greater openness and transparency. For industries outside the list, the approval system for foreign investment projects is replaced with a filing system. Today, among over 3,000 foreign enterprises set up since the official launch of the zone, 90% are established through filing procedures. At the same time, 54 opening up measures in service and manufacturing have been in effect. Starting this year, a new round of opening up measures are expected to be rolled out, and some industries will be chosen to test a unified market entry system.
在贸易监管领域，以贸易便利化为重点的贸易监管制度平稳运行，海关、检验检疫、海事等部门借鉴国际经验，实施了分线管理，推出了60多项创新举措。通关率比区外缩短了41%，出口通关时间缩短了36.8%，企业的物流费用节约了10%。同时，我们还借鉴国际通行规则，启动了国际贸易单一窗口建设，实施了货物状态分类监管试点，进一步提高了区域的航运和贸易能级。
In the field of trade supervision, a trade supervision system based on trade facilitation has been running very smoothly. Drawing lessons from international practices, the General Administration of Customs, General Administration of Quality Supervision, Inspection and Quarantine, and China Maritime Safety Administration jointly adopted the hierarchical management approach and implemented more than 60 innovative measures. As a result, the zone managed to save 41.3% and 36.8% of the time for import and export customs clearance, as well as 10% for logistics cost for enterprises. Meanwhile, we began to take the single window approach in international trade, initiating a pilot program called Categorized Supervision System based on import status to enhance shipping and trade capacity.
在金融开放的领域，我们是以资本项目可兑换和金融服务业开放为目标的金融创新制度基本确立。我们以服务实体经济为原则，在宏观审慎、风险可控的前提下，建立了本外币一体化的自由贸易账户。在投融资汇兑便利、人民币跨境使用、利率市场化、外汇改革方面进行了创新。比如，跨境人民币双向资金池业务受到了企业的欢迎。自去年3月以来，结算总量月均增幅70%以上。通过自由贸易账户，内外资企业都可以方便地从境外融资，区内企业的融资成本降低了10%以上。同时，有序扩大了金融服务业的开放，已有一大批境内外的金融机构入驻。上海的国际能源中心、上海的国际黄金交易中心等面向国际的金融要素市场平台已经成立运营，正在推动建设黄金、外汇、证券、期货、原油、大宗商品等平台，方便境内外的投资者双向投资于境内的资本市场。
In the field of financial innovation, a financial innovation system aimed at capital account convertibility and opening up in the financial service sector has been in place. To better serve the real economy, we have established a micro-prudent and risk-controlled free trade account unit and made a series of innovative moves in facilitating cross-border investment, finance and exchange, cross-border use of RMB, interest rate liberalization, as well as foreign exchange reform. The launch of the two-way cross-border RMB capital pool business last March led to a 70% monthly growth in total settlement. And both domestic and foreign companies can raise funds in the overseas market through the FTA, saving corporate financing costs by 10%. In the meantime, the financial service sector has been opening up in an orderly way. A group of domestic and foreign financial institutions have been running in the zone. The Shanghai International Energy Exchange and the Shanghai International Gold Exchange are in operation, and the exchange markets for gold, foreign exchange, securities, oil, and commodities will be set up in the near future in an effort to facilitate domestic and foreign investment in China's as well as overseas capital market.
在事中事后监管方面，以政府职能转变为核心的监管制度基本形成。我们借助大数据等现代信息技术，初步建立了社会信用体系、企业年报公示和经营异常名录制度、信息共享和综合执法制度、社会力量参与市场监督制度、安全审查、反垄断审查等6项基本制度，并配合行业监管部门不断地完善专业监管制度，确保开放和监管同步到位。
In the field of mid-event and ex-post regulation, a mid-event and ex-post regulatory system focused on transforming government functions has taken shape. With modern IT tools such as big data in our hands, we have established 6 basic regulatory systems, featuring social credit rating, annual report publication and list of abnormal operation, information sharing and comprehensive law enforcement, involvement of social organizations and market supervision, security review, as well as anti-monopoly review, while working with industrial regulatory authorities to improve the professional regulatory system, so as to synchronize opening up with regulation.
在推进制度创新的过程中，我们始终坚持以法治轨道上推行改革，在国家层面暂时调整了相关的法律法规。上海市人大常委会也通过了《中国上海自由贸易实验区条例》，提供了法治的保障。
In the course of institutional innovation, we push forward reform while adhering to the rule of law. To accommodate the development of the zone, temporary adjustments have been made on the national level to several laws and regulations in order to provide legal guarantee for innovative explorations. On the local level, the Standing Committee of Shanghai Municipal People's Congress approved the regulation on China-Shanghai Pilot Free Trade Zone, providing institutional framework and legal guarantee for the zone.
经过1年半的实践，上海自由贸易实验区改革开放效应逐步显现，在激励创业、带动就业的同时，促进了区域经济健康发展。目前，区内投资企业超过2.6万家，从业人员超过30万，其中实验区成立后新设的企业1.7万家。去年经营收入、商品销售额、物流收入等一系列经济指标保持2位数增长。同时，一批试点成果已经在全国范围推广。去年底，国务院决定在广东、天津、福建新设3个自由贸易实验区，并将上海的实验区扩展到浦东新区、陆家嘴、金桥、张江等区域范围。今年4月，国务院批复了上海深化改革的方案，支持上海在更高的起点、更广的领域、更大的空间深化改革开放。这标志着上海实验区的建设正式进入了一个新的阶段。
After 18 months of exploration and experiment, the reform and opening up measures of Shanghai Pilot Free Trade Zone have begun to yield results, promoting healthy economic development of the region while encouraging entrepreneurship and employment. Today, the zone is home to over 300,000 employees and more than 26,000 enterprises, among which 17,000 are newly established ones. Last year, the zone witnessed double-digit growth in leading economic indicators, and growth in import and export exceeded national average by 6 percentage points. At the same time, a series of pilot results have been rolled out nationwide. Last December, the State Council decided to establish 3 new free trade zones in Guangdong, Tianjin, and Fujian provinces, and expand China-Shanghai Pilot Free Trade Zone from 28.78 square kilometers to 172 square kilometers by incorporating Lujiazui Financial Zone, Jinqiao Development Zone, and Zhangjiang High-Tech Zone, 3 functional zones in Pudong New Area. In April, the State Council approved Shanghai's plan for deepening reform, allowing Shanghai to carry out reform and opening up on a higher level. This marked the beginning of a new phase for China-Shanghai Pilot Free Trade Zone.
下一步，我们将抓住区域扩展的重大机遇，不断深化制度创新，进一步扩大对外开放的力度，积极营造国际化、市场化、法治化的营商环境，努力建设习近平总书记所要求的开放度最高的自由贸易区，当好改革开放的排头兵，创新发展的先行者。最后，欢迎各国朋友到我们上海自贸实验区来考察交流。
In the next phase of development, we will seize this great opportunity to deepen institutional innovation, make breakthroughs in reform and opening up, foster an international, market-oriented, and legalized business environment, and spare no effort to build China's most open free trade zone, as urged by President Xi Jinping, so as to play a leading role in reform and innovation. Finally, let me conclude by welcoming friends from all over the world to visit China-Shanghai Pilot Free Trade Zone. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jing Wang, and thank you to your translators. I'm very sorry, but we haven't time for questions. And now we are going to ask Mr. Nasser Shredeh, Chairman of the Arab Union of Free Zones and Chairman of the Jordanian Free Zones Company, to present us the situation of free zones in Arab countries.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good afternoon, everybody. It's indeed a great pleasure to be with you here in Dubai at the first World Free Zones International Conference and Exhibition. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank the World Free Zones Organization for giving me this opportunity to address this eminent gathering and praise their outstanding work and efforts in hosting and organizing this important conference. Once again, United Arab Emirates and Dubai in particular has made itself a world standard for responsibility, success, and excellence. I join you today with wearing two hats. My first hat shares the Arab Union of Free Zones, while my second shares the Jordanian Free Zones Company. And allow me first to brief you and introduce you to the Arab Union of Free Zones, which was established 5 years ago in 2010 as a non-government body, and it's affiliated with the Arab League. It includes members from 8 Arab countries and acts as a catalyst and advocator for promoting free zones in the Arab region. As well, it provides support and technical assistance to its members. As you may be already aware, the idea of adopting systems of free zones in the Arab region has gained momentum since the 1960s. While Bahrain, Syria, Egypt, and Jordan were among the first Arab countries to establish government-run free zones, Dubai has developed a reputation for international trade long before its first free trade zone was established in the 1980s. Over the last couple of decades, many Arab countries have progressively expanded the establishment of new free zones. This expansion was mainly driven and motivated by the need for encouraging and boosting foreign inward investment and technology, the need for expanding links with the global economy and having a better market access, the need for creating jobs, as well as the need to compensate for the gaps and shortfalls of the global trade system, particularly in light of the Doha round of trade negotiations continues to be stalled since 2001, preventing most developing countries from taking the full advantage of opportunities offered by globalization and trade liberalization. Although many Arab countries have adopted different systems and types of zones, which is listed in the slides in front of you, they share a number of dominators among them. Free zones are areas considered outside national customs territory, have autonomous regulatory and management bodies, also offers a wide range of fiscal and financial incentives, as well offer a wide range of export and trade logistics services, including warehousing, distribution facilities, etc., and may include one or more economic activity of manufacturing, processing, assembly, commercial and/or services. On the other hand, and while very little is available on measuring the economic impact of free zones in the Arab region, it is safe to say that free zones have been producing significant direct and indirect contributions to our national economy's growth and development. For example, and according to a 2008 study of the World Bank Group, free zones in the MENA region were able to generate over 1.5 million jobs and accounted for over 36% of the region's total exports. While I'm moving to my second hat, I would like to brief you more on the situation of free zones in Jordan. And in Jordan, by the way, the Jordanian Free Zones Company is entrusted with managing all public free zones in Jordan, which there is 6 right now, as well as regulate and license private zones, which stands right now at 30 zones. The total 36 free zones that exist right now in Jordan serve over 3,700 investors and over 2,600 registered companies. To date, public and private zones were able to attract investment of over $4.5 billion, 65% of which are foreign direct investments. Free zones in Jordan were also able to generate over 66,000 direct and indirect job opportunities. The trade volume of free zones in Jordan has reached over $12 billion in 2014. Export level to regional and international markets has been growing steadily, reaching over $4 billion, counting for about 40% of Jordan's overall exports. And also, all types of economic activities are operating from public and free zones, including industrial, commercial, and services. But also in private zones, we have 14 industrial zones, 10 services, 3 trade, 2 media zones, and 1 agriculture free zone. Also, Jordanian free zones were able to penetrate a wide number of important regional and international markets. I would like in the coming 1 minute and a half also to share with you the future of free zones, the way we see them in Jordan. Like from the morning session, really, the speaker referred to iPhone 6. I'm going to talk about iPhone 7 of free zones in Jordan in the coming year. And I would like to take this opportunity to lead you through the video. I cannot see it. Can you start again, please? Can you start the video again, please? I could not see it on my screen. No, can you start from the beginning, because I lost time with it. Can you start the video, please, from the start, from the beginning? Okay, I would like to announce the establishment of a new free zone at the Amman Queen Alia International Airport. It would be an area of 1,000 dunam, 1 square kilometers, and is currently under development and under construction and will be operational in early 2017. It has a strategic location, and it is going to be a hub for doing business that will provide unparalleled access to regional and international markets. It will have a world-class infrastructure. It will also have a one-stop shop for effectively processing all investors' transactions and services all in one place. It will make available to investors e-services for processing their export and import transactions and custom clearance. It will also include a business services center that will be equipped with the showrooms, conference center, meeting rooms, as well as secretarial and communication services. It will also entail a business complex that will make office space available for leasing by companies and investors. It will have a logistical hub and all type of investment support services for exports and investments, including warehouses, shipment and handling services, banking services, insurance services, etc. It will also make available developed land units and warehouses available for lease for light industrial, commercial, and services activities. And last but not least, this new free zone will provide a wide range of incentives and market opportunities for multinational corporations, foreign investors, and overseas trade partners to come and invest in Jordan. Ladies and gentlemen, while the short term of our region remains clouded with political uncertainties and risks, we continue to struggle in learning about the emerging and growing challenges we face in our region and across the road. And before I conclude my intervention with a number of policy recommendations for enhancing the free zones in my region, I would like to share with you a number of realities, or the way I see them as realities. First, despite of the new opportunities that globalization has generated, it has prompted a change in the development paradigms and has created many social and economic imbalances. Developing countries' role and involvement in the global economy is very much a matter of concern. Second, as a region, we have already embarked on a series of initiatives related to international, regional, and bilateral free trade arrangements. But what matters most for us still lagging behind. The global systems of trade and finance continue to face many shortfalls. Third, the global trade system needs not only to work better, but also adopt more innovative and proactive approach. In this regard, free zones can correspond to the evolving global trends and challenges. Free zones' track record of competitive performance should be encouraged and perceived more favorably by global actors. Enhancing the role of free zones in our region also requires us to progressively address a number of elements for creating the necessary conditions for seamless and competitive trade. Such elements include adopting forward-thinking policies for the creation of a conducive and a healthy environment for investment and investors. It also requires us to modernize our laws and regulations and streamline domestic regulatory standards with international standards. Fourth, strengthening institutional capacity and investing in our human resources development is also a key requirement, while improving infrastructure and existing support services is not enough without shifting our focus from traditional economic activities to new sectors with high growth potential, high value added to our local economy, and stronger links to the expanding global economy. By the way, I saw Samir standing, so I'm sure I have 30 seconds left. My last message for you before I rest is that in our 21st century, attention is often focused on technologies and markets. But we should remind ourselves that these are at best only tools or means. tools that have allowed world's people to combine their energies and talents. And I believe that people should be at the heart of the global prosperity and agenda. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Mr. Shredé. Now, Mr. Rajesh Parekh, please, who will introduce the role of the Dubai International Financial Center in Dubai.
Thank you, Dr. Francois. Good afternoon, Your Excellencies and ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, I don't have a presentation, so you'll have to bear looking at me for the next few minutes. I'd like to start by saying that DIFC is privileged to support this conference in collaboration with the World Free Zones Organization. I've been requested to provide a brief on Dubai International Financial Center, and I'd like to cover the following key aspects in relation to the financial center and include an overview on setting up of the DIFC, the unique offering that we have in the financial center, one-stop destination, the world-class infrastructure that we provide, connectivity, which is again more of a Dubai story than DIFC, but it helps us, and the way forward. What is DIFC? DIFC is a federal financial free zone administered by the government of Dubai. It was established in accordance with the UAE federal law and by the Dubai law. The president of the DIFC is His Highness Sheikh Maktoum bin Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who's the deputy ruler of Dubai. In terms of the evolution of DIFC, DIFC is regarded as an autonomous jurisdiction within the UAE. Its creation required an amendment to the UAE constitution in order to allow the federation to enact a financial free zone law. This law in turn allowed each emirate to create its own financial free zone. More importantly, it exempts financial free zones from all federal, civil as well as commercial laws within the UAE, except UAE criminal laws, administrative law, and the anti-money laundering law. In addition, DIFC is empowered to create its own legal and regulatory framework for all civil and commercial matters. Dubai Law Number 12 of 2004 was passed, establishing the DIFC Judicial Authority and the DIFC court system. This law guarantees the independent administration of justice in DIFC and also sets out the powers, procedures, functions, and administration of the court. What is different in DIFC? Apart from the 100% ownership which most free zones offer, DIFC offers its own commercial laws, and we also offer our own regulations and the judicial system. In addition, we also have our independent regulatory body, the Dubai Financial Services Authority, which grants licenses and regulates the activities of financial services conducted through the financial center. In addition, we have the DIFC courts, which is the independent judicial system within the financial district that offers swift, independent justice to settle local and international commercial and civil disputes through an English language common law system. The companies operating in the financial center enjoy 0% tax rate on income and profits, which is guaranteed for a period of 50 years from 2004. In addition to that, UAE's wide network of double taxation avoidance treaties with more than 60 regulators and central banks also helps companies operating in the financial district. We have no restriction on capital repatriation or profit flows for companies operating in DIFC, as well as there are no currency exchange controls in US dollar-denominated jurisdiction. We've been discussing around one-stop shop and how we have a full ecosystem to support. DIFC is truly a one-stop shop service for visas, work permits, and other related requirements. Within DIFC, we also have the Registrar of Companies, who is responsible for all matters related to incorporation, registration of companies based in DIFC. He is also responsible for administering DIFC's companies law as well as regulations. In addition to the Registrar of Companies, we also have the Registrar of Real Properties, who administers the laws, regulation, and procedures designed to ensure the protection of the rights of buyers, sellers, and leaseholders of all property-related transactions within the financial district. Furthermore, we also have a Commissioner of Data Protection, who is an independent regulator to uphold data privacy for individuals in or from DIFC, and is responsible for administration of the data protection law and regulations within the center. We've discussed the world-class infrastructure. DIFC truly provides one of the world-class infrastructure within the heart of Dubai. The DIFC is currently situated in a 110-acre site, and the entry to the district is through the gate, which is the architectural signature building of DIFC and one of the most iconic buildings amongst the many buildings that we have in larger Dubai. Once the district is fully complete, the DIFC will offer almost 25 million square feet of gross leasable area, of which 2.5 million square feet is currently leased, which means that in the next 10-15 years, DIFC would be able to deliver a steady supply of capacity to meet the growing demand. Moreover, lifestyle is an integral part of the vibrant DIFC community, which includes art, culture, retail, and essential conveniences. The key milestone that DIFC has achieved over the last 10 years, when we celebrated our 10th year anniversary in November 2014, included that we've reached 1,225 companies at the end of 2014, which reflected an increase of 18%. As compared to 2008, we reflected an increase of 60%. We've registered 242 new companies in 2004, which again reflects an increase of 22%. Today, we have almost 28,000 people working in the financial district, which reflects an increase of 14% over 2013 numbers. It is extremely critical to note that today DIFC is home to 21 of the world's top 25 banks, 11 of the world's top 20 money managers, 7 of the top 10 insurance companies, and 9 of the top 10 law firms. Companies who are operating in DIFC are looking to do business not only in the UAE, but around the Gulf region, as well as Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia. DIFC is also facilitating the South-South trade and investment flows across Asia, Africa, and Indian subcontinent. A significant volume of exports from China goes to Northern Africa, which is part of the MENA region, for which Dubai, due to its locational advantage and as a trade hub and the sophisticated financial center, becomes an obvious choice to service that part of the trade from Dubai or from DIFC. Dubai is clearly a gateway to those different countries. China becomes Dubai's #1 trading partner in 2014 after a 29% increase in trade value, reaching to $47.6 billion. DIFC is currently home to 4 of the Chinese top banks, as well as more than 20 leading Indian banks and financial institutions. I think it is very important when we highlight DIFC, it is because of what Dubai is all about, being the cultural melting pot. Dubai currently has the most vibrant and open culture, where we accept other cultures and we are extremely competitive. Residents enjoy Dubai's vibrant, cosmopolitan, and open environment. Dubai has the largest pool of privately run schools, hospitals, and clinics, which are supported and regulated by world-class bodies, ensuring quality of care and learning. I'd like to conclude by saying that Dubai is going to continue to growing, being the business destination of choice for the Middle East and Africa. And clearly, DIFC is excited to support this new phase of growth and participate more proactively in the Emirates' success story. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parek. To complete this conference, I ask Mr. Klaus Aschmeyer to present you OECD expertise on special economic zones in the MENA region. Mr. Aschmeyer is German, based in Paris, and member of the Global Relations Secretariat, Middle East and Africa Division of the OECD.
Merci pour cette introduction, Professor, and ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm very happy to talk here. What I would like to do is, the OECD is an international organization which specializes in economic policy for its members. I would like to talk about how we approach the phenomenon of free zones from a different angle, and present some of our latest economic thinking and show how this links with the issue. So in a way, I'm cutting a bridge between the first panel and this panel. And this will be done for the MENA region, the Middle East and North Africa. So first of all, a short word on the OECD, because some of you might not know who the OECD is. The OECD is an organization based in Paris with 34 member states, mostly industrialized countries. We are working on economic policy under the motto, better economies for better lives. And we have an increased outreach also to other parts of the world, including the MENA region. And I'm actually representing the MENA investment program, which is doing regional work and also country-based work in many areas, including business climate reviews, competitiveness, SME policy, women, and I'm specialized in investment and trade. So I would just like to sum up some of the main challenges in the MENA region in the following two slides at the example of investment flows. It is a phenomenon that FDI flows into the MENA region, also within the region, have been quite low in the recent years and haven't recovered to that peak which they reached in 2008. 2008, 13% of the global FDI went into the MENA region. Now it's only 8%. And basically this poses the question of how do you revive this? How do you turn over these effects? And the first thing you would do is looking at investment policy. At least this is what we would do. Here you see a rather completely different phenomenon, to use the word again. The MENA countries in general have been strong signatories of bilateral investment treaties, so they're heavily participating in these activities. They are even signing a lot of these treaties amongst themselves. There are maybe 18 to 20 MENA countries which have 100 bilateral investment treaties between themselves. And at the same time, you're continuing to see relatively low levels of FDI in the historical perspective, but also as a second aspect that FDI in the MENA region, this means from one MENA country to another, is also relatively low. And this despite this heavy activity in investment policy. So you probably can guess what I would like to get at the moment. But before I'm talking about free zones, I would like to come back to the issue of global value chains, because this is an issue which we have studied quite closely in the last year. We have developed, in cooperation with the WTO, colleague is maybe still present, a database where we try to measure global value chains and the impact on the economy. And I do not need to repeat, but I still do it. Global value chains are important because simply trade is increasing stronger than GDP, which means that goods and services are moving around the world for longer times before they're consumed by private individuals, by government, or for investment. And this means that, in general, there are great opportunities for developing countries because they can simply chip in and get themselves integrated into value chains. And for example, if you look at the MENA countries, if you look at the countries around the Mediterranean, they are traditionally strongly geared towards the European Union and European economies, so they can certainly benefit from this. So what have we done? This is a preliminary analysis, but I think this will be a very strong instrument in the future. If you look at the line, the line reflects the added value done locally. So on the left bar you see 0.1, 0.2, this stands for 10 or 20%. And it basically means, if you look at the line, that these countries in the MENA region are usually adding, if they're exporting, it means that between 10 and 30% roughly is local value added. So this is the global value chain participation. In addition to that, we have not only measured the local value added, but we're also trying to find out where does it come from, what are the reasons. And first of all, you have to say, due to the location of a country and due to the size of economy, not any country will participate in global value chains to the same extent. But there are also a number of other issues, such as trade policy, investment openness, and additional factors which play a role. And we have tried to decompose that. And you will certainly see that there are some countries which, due to their trade policy or their investment climate, are even below the results they could potentially reach. And another striking phenomenon, number two, is the participation in global value chains, which in the MENA region is about 20% in average, rough average, you see, whereas other regions of the world, as we found out, were far more successful. Look at Southeast Asia, they are below 50%. And again, well, we need to look closely and analyze this more closely. I mean, this is preliminary. What can these countries do? And certainly keys are in the investment openness, this is very important, but also in trade facilitation and infrastructure, intellectual property protection and institutions. And at the moment we are struggling with the statistics, but I think in the future we might reach a point where we can analyze this bit better. And this will also, of course, have implications for free zones, because you can measure what can countries do to participate better in global value chains, and then you can also make a conclusion of what type of free zone, how should it be organized, what sectors, etc. We are working on a publication where we would like to further analyze the phenomenon of free zones. We call that special economic zones, where this is like a matter of definition. But I think a large focus of this work, which hopefully will be ready in the coming months, will be on how to measure the success of free zones, how to establish best practice and rule according to what we do at the MENA, at the OECD in general. I have already said we are working on economic policy, so you will not find it astonishing that the focus on our work is on economic policy issues, mainly the place of free zones within the economic policy regime, the interactions with the government, matters of organizations, etc. So our contribution, and we've done this in several countries, is studies in sector competitiveness, legal framework, institutional support, and also integration into economic policy, economic strategy, etc., etc. Well, the final two slides, I've just designed them to illustrate the case in point, or what we're doing, and I also wanted to present a case study, and I think this slide has disappeared. But anyway, regarding the limited time, I would like to stop here. My major point would be that free zones in general, as we see it, are certainly not standing alone, but have to be seen as an integrated part of economic policy. And what we are working is to measure the linkages and the impacts towards investment climate, towards trade policy, and also measure things like institutions and trade facilitation services, and aggregate these numbers, and on this basis be hopefully able to make recommendations for you as policymakers, for you as countries, and for you as SEZ practitioners. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aschmeyer. This conference is now complete, and it remains for me to thank warmly our 5 panelists for their very interesting speeches. Thank you very much, and I wish you an excellent meeting.
Thank you very much indeed for your participation. Now, we're on to the last panel for the day. Can I invite to the stage the participants? Rose Hines, where are you? Dr. Dragan Kostic, Daniel Griswold, Juan Pablo Rivera, Chris Ndibe, and Datuk Ismail Ibrahim. Enjoy. And while you're coming to the stage, can I please remind everyone that there is a dinner tonight. It is at the Jumeirah Creekside Hotel. There are coaches to take you there. They'll be outside the hotel at 6:30. Dinner starts at 7:30. And Rose, I'm handing over to you.
Hi, just while everybody is getting organised, I'm Rose Hines. I'm chairman of Shannon Group, and that includes Shannon Airport and Shannon Free Zone. As some of you know, Shannon Free Zone was established in 1959. It was the first free zone in the world, and it was established as a direct response to the fact that new jet aircraft would no longer be refuelling in Shannon. Therefore, that created a risk to the jobs in the region. And the first free zone in the world was established by the government as a direct response to that and became a success. I'm joined by my panelists, and we've been listening to Professor Xavier, and we've been observing, and they're going to innovate by shortening their presentations. And as the slot that is between you and dinner, I'm sure that will be a welcome comment. I'd like to call, first of all, Dr. Dragan Kostic, and Dragan is going to is from Serbia and is going to talk to us regarding the European situation and European free zones.
Good day, everyone. Okay, I will present you very quickly because we have no time. This is a presentation about free zone of the world, a little bit of Serbia, Serbian free zones, town Pirot, and free zone Pirot. All the world we have, I think 25% of world trade is carried on to the free zones. Now I think, and the International Labour Organization says that we have almost 11,000 free zones on the world. I think it is true. In United States, in Mexico, in South America, Africa, famous free zones for Asia, Australia, European free zones, 31 free zones in the old European Union. Most of the 70 for European Union, and with Turkey, almost, I think, 100 free zones. Free zone European Union, control type 1 and type 2. I go very quickly because I have many data for European free zones, but we haven't the time. Exemption for corporate income tax, personal income tax, and a very good example is export processing zones from Poland. And Poland extend the incentives in European Union for his free zones to 2036. They have almost all the incentives like the successful free zones of the world. 14 free zones in Poland, 1,500 companies, 2,000 workers, 200,000 workers. It is a very good example. In Serbia, we have 13 free zones. 11 is operating now. Serbia, the position between the East and the West in the Balkan. On the corridor, Pan-European Corridor 10, very quickly brief in the Serbian pictures. We have very interesting history. Our monastery, Orthodox Church monastery, very famous, winery from Serbia, villages, plum brandy from Serbia, very famous, and river Danube. Serbian free zones, 11 in processing now. Almost in all the free zones we have one multilateral company, international company. Michelin in Pirot, Siemens and Swarovski in Subotica, etc. 2012, we have 2.5 billion turnover, 5 million in 2013, and 5.5 in 2014. Export increased also, almost 3 million euro in 2014. It is very good for business in Serbia. Pirot town and famous free zone in Pirot. This is a picture for this part of Balkans. Old pictures, an old mountain, very famous mountain in the Serbia. Orthodox monastery, of course, in this region. And very famous Pirot carpet. You can see this carpet have two faces. And famous yellow cheese for this region, and iron sausages, and free zone Pirot, of course. It is natural logistic center, hub in the Corridor 10, Pan-European Corridor 10, Corridor 4, Thessaloniki, Sofia, Romania, and Corridor 8, the Italian ports, Durrës, Skopje, Sofia, and Black ports. It is only 60 kilometers to free zone Pirot, and Corridor 10 is in free zone Pirot. Our location is the old Roman road. You can see we find this old Roman road these days because we build a new highway to the Corridor 10. You can see old Roman road now in preparation, new highway under construction now. We have 100 hectares of free zone Pirot, and benefits. Production is free, trade is free, building is free and fast, logistic on time, cheap services, and we have incentives, state, municipality, and very cheap services. We have also very interesting free trade agreement with Russia. If you produce something in free zone, in Pirot, you can export to Russia and Belarus and Kazakhstan with only 1% of custom duty. From European Union is 25 to 45. And VAT is zero in free zone, custom duty is zero. We have also national Serbian free zone law, and no taxes for raw material, equipment, all, energy, and of course, all services. This is state. Municipality support, we have infrastructure, equipment, land, and we have also all the municipality taxes is zero. for build and for use the plants in border of the free zone period. And our services, we have many services, of course, custom, clearings, logistic in zone. We have also organizational transport, 2 block train from Black Sea ports to the free zone for our customers. The main customers is tire company there is Michelin. Tiger Tires, the name is this company. We have also one-stop shop and 50 production plants, 150 trade companies, almost 5,000 workers. Turnover is 700 million euro for last year, and export is for 100 million euro. We're preparing for extend our activities and preparing to organize one modern regional intermodal logistics center in the shortest way to the east to west. This is our new project. We're looking also for investor for this project with us. We have 2 awards to Financial Times, 2013 and 2014. We are in the list of 30 free zones in the world. Our vision to be the first in this region, of course. And this is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dragan. Thank you. Next from North America, we have Daniel Griswold, and Daniel is the president of the National Association of Free Trade Zones. So thanks, Daniel.
Thank you very much, Rose. Wait for them to cue it up. There we go. Well, greetings from the 650 members of the National Association of Foreign Trade Zones. We're a proud founding member of the World Free Zones organization. I'm delighted to be here today. Our association is all about education, information, networking, and also advocating in Washington for a stronger foreign trade zones program. We have our own annual conference in Los Angeles at the end of September this year. It'd be wonderful to see any or all of you there. A brief history of the U.S. Foreign Trade Zones program. It was founded by an act of Congress in 1934 in the depths of the Great Depression. It was an effort to reconnect U.S. business with the global economy during the Great Depression. The law says its purpose is to expedite and encourage foreign commerce. In 1950, it was expanded to include manufacturing. In 1980, they redefined imports to lower the duty and just apply them to imported components. In the 1990s, it was opened up to oil refining, which today remains the major activity in foreign trade zones. In 2000, weekly entry was expanded to all zones. Automation is taken over of almost all zone transactions. And most recently, new regulations combined with something called the Alternative Site Framework has lowered barriers of entry. Basically, if you're a business anywhere in a multi-county area, you can qualify for zone status in the United States. You don't need to move to a particular area. The zone status comes to you, and that has made the program more user-friendly than ever. How a zone operates, very quickly, it's a customs tool. Zones are secure areas at or near a port of entry. They're in the United States. All labor and environmental laws apply, but they're considered outside U.S. customs territory. You can do all sorts of things in a zone. You can store, you can manipulate, you can assemble, you can relabel, you can manufacture in a zone. And from a zone, you can enter it into U.S. commerce, you can destroy the goods for scrap, or you can export them abroad. The main benefits for business, you can reduce or eliminate or defer duties. You can eliminate duties on imported goods that enter the zone and then are re-exported or are scrapped because they've never entered U.S. commerce. You can reduce duties on what we call inverted tariffs. If the duties are higher on the imported components than they are on the final product, if you're manufacturing in the zone, you can elect to apply the lower duty of the final product when it enters U.S. commerce. This is a key savings for industries such as the automobile industry and the pharmaceutical industry. And of course, duty deferral. You pay the duties if goods come into the zone and then you enter them into U.S. commerce. You pay the duty when it leaves the zone closer to the final sale. You can also defer duty on production equipment until that imported production equipment is up and running and actually producing goods in the zone. If you're managing a global supply chain, additional benefits are something we call direct delivery, where goods can move directly from the port of first entry to the zone without prior approval of customs. You can turn around in the next business day and tell customs what has arrived. They have to be goods that are regular, that tend to come in day after day to your zone. This can cut 1 to 2 days off the supply chain. Most users in a zone qualify. We have something called weekly entry, which allows you to consolidate entries into one estimated form for customs, and that can save you a lot of money on the merchandise processing fee. This is very popular with retailers. And then security. We've talked a lot about security at this conference. Zones are actually considered by our Customs Service to be a best practice for customs trade partnership against terrorism, CTPAT. Or by definition, you get an extra layer of security by being in a zone. Customs is very comfortable with that. In fact, that's a picture of me visiting our zone in El Paso, Zone 68, El Paso, Texas. We're just a few hundred yards away from the Texas border there. The agent told me there that for us, FTZs are as secure as it can get. This just shows you the level of activity in zones, and that activity has been going up in recent years. In 2013, that's the most recent year where we have statistics. There were 177 active zones in the United States, throughout the United States and Puerto Rico, almost 300 production manufacturing operations, mostly subzones, these individual company sites that I mentioned. Imports to zones now account for over 12% of U.S. imports. That is triple the share just 20 years ago. A record $835 billion was admitted to U.S. zones, 2/3 of that domestically. So U.S. zones are very much embedded in the domestic economy, with the manufacturing activity relying not just on foreign suppliers, but on domestic suppliers as well to bring value added. And exports are a spectacular success of U.S. foreign trade zones. They reached almost $80 billion. The growth rate of U.S. exports in recent years has been 3 times the overall rate of U.S. exports. We have more than 3,000 companies operating in U.S. zones and 390,000 Americans going to work every day in foreign trade zones. The U.S. Foreign Trade Zones program has proven to be a very attractive tool for foreign investment in the United States. Foreign companies investing in foreign trade zones can maintain their supply chains back to the home country. They can maintain those. They have immediate access to the world's largest consumer market. And also the United States is a very attractive export platform to the rest of the Americas and on to Asia and elsewhere. Here are some of the foreign national companies that are in foreign trade zones. This is just a partial list. Airbus, BMW, most of the international auto makers are in foreign trade zones. Mercedes-Benz, Nissan, Toyota, Volkswagen, they're all in foreign trade zones. It's especially attractive to manufacturing. We have this phenomenon in the United States called reshoring, where U.S. companies that had moved production offshore are bringing it back. 2 very good examples are GE in Louisville, Kentucky. They have a state-of-the-art manufacturing facility there in a foreign trade zone. They make low-energy water heaters. Whirlpool has they say it's the world's largest appliance factory, a washing machine factory in Ohio that they brought back production from Mexico. That's in a foreign trade zone. If you go to Silicon Valley out in California, those Tesla electric cars that you've been reading about, those are made in a foreign trade zone in Fremont, California, and particularly the batteries gain a lot of advantage in being in a foreign trade zone. And then finally, the growth area in zones, it isn't just about manufacturing. I love manufacturing, but distribution activity also adds value and creates jobs and innovation. More and more foreign trade zones in the United States are becoming homes for some of the name brand retailers. These are retailers just a short distance from my home in Northern Virginia. And when you shop at those stores in the United States, chances are the goods came through a foreign trade zone. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I've left some literature at the World Free Zones Organization table, and you're welcome to collect it there. And I'm going to be around all day tomorrow for questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Daniel. And next we have Juan Pablo Rivera, who is president of the Zona Franca in Bogota, and he's also chairman of the Latin American Free Zones.
Good afternoon to all of you, and really thank you for being here at this time of the afternoon. It is difficult the competition between being here or being out in this beautiful Dubai. So really thank you very much for the few of you that are already here in the salon. And thank you also for the organization of the World Free Trade Zone Organization in order to have me the opportunity to talk here about the state of the art of the free trade zones of the Americas. What the topics that I want to talk to you are types of free trade zones in Latin America, an overview of the free trade zones, and the industrial diversification and the incentives that we have in the free trade zones in Latin America. And a little bit of explanation, what is our association at the end of the presentation. The type of free trade zones that we have in Latin America are basically three. The first one are the export-free trade zones that are the ones that are identified in three different models. The first one is the industrial diversification that is used to increase the value added of goods and services produced within the free trade zones, such as the example of Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, and some other countries that are using the free trade zone regime in order to have a strong textile apparel industry, but also they have used it for attract new high-tech products like electronics, medical devices, and pharma products. The other type that they have for the export free trade zones in Latin America are the dependence in maquilas, like for example that the ones they have in Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, and Nicaragua, in order to take the advantage of the CAFTA agreement with the US. Also, the logistics services that they provide from the free trade zone in order to make distribution of goods and services from the different countries in the whole Latin America, such as Panama, Chile, and Argentina. Remember that due to the Mercosur agreement, the manufacturers that are produced in those countries that are part of Mercosur, they are not allowed to produce goods in order to get it into the national territory unless they pay the duties as a third country. So that's why the distribution and services has been developed more in such as countries like the ones that are part of the Mercosur agreement. The second type of free trade zone that we have are the import substitution free zones, like for example the case in Brazil, where especially during the whole existence of the program, they have been substituting the imports manufacturing there in the free trade zone And now, in the late years, they have been trying to start exporting from there, taking in advance of the products that they already have with a very good competition, competitiveness in order to get to the markets in some other regions of Latin America. And the other type of free trade zones that we have are the mixed free trade zones, like the ones that we have in Colombia or in Uruguay, where we have permanent and transitory and also special free trade zones from where we can manufacture, produce services or commercialize products and services. There are many free trade zones around the world, as our friends of the panel already said. In Latin America, we have 12.7% of those free trade zones are located in Latin America, and 400 of those free trade zones are located there that are that they have more than 50 free trade agreements, and also they have a market of 507 million inhabitants. And those agreements that we have with the other countries give us a lot of advantages and competitiveness within the other free trade zones. About the economic and social impact that the free trade zone regime has had in Latin America, we can say that the regime exists over more than 50 years already in our countries. The oldest one in Mexico, and the first one, the newest in Colombia, the new regime that we have already. Also, these are the count of free trade zones by country, in which Colombia has 102, and the lesser is Ecuador with 1 free trade zone. The free trade zone in Latin America are employing 900,000+ employees. For example, Honduras with 146,000, and Paraguay with 2,500 employees. There are 8,000 companies also operating in our free trade zones, and these are the types of industrial diversification that we have in our countries. As you can see, there is a lot of diversification in all our programs, from agricultural to textile, medical devices, pharmaceuticals, electronics, such as logistics. Sorry, this was not supposed to be here. But anyways, all this information about all these free trade zones are available and will be at the website of the organization at the end of the program. Finally, I would like to present you who we are. The ASFA is the association that promotes the free trade zone regime in Latin America. We also promote the cooperation and business relations with the free trade zone, and now we can say that we are also the ambassadors of the World Free Zone Organization in Latin America. So whatever you need over there, please let us know. We will be more than happy to contact you with all our affiliated companies. And also tell you that we have our annual conference at the beginning of November, from the 4th to the 6th of November in Nicaragua this year. All you are invited. For conclusions, there are free trade zones in Latin America since 50 years ago that are 400 free trade zones in number. They have 900,000 plus direct employees and more than 8,000 companies operating, with a diversification of industries. And due to the importance of the free trade zone programs in our countries, all of us has some national committees that are always working hand to hand from the public and private parties in order to make the program more important for the development of our country. So here I end. Thank you very much for the time. And
thank you very much, Juan Pablo. Thank you. Next, to give us the perspective from Africa is Chris Ndibe, and Chris is the Executive Director of the African Free Trade Zone.
Thank you. I must say congratulations to all of you for being here. You are just 5 minutes to the end of the time. All I just want to tell you is what we have been doing in Africa and the development so far. I want to say that just like every other regional area, Africa is seriously progressing in free zones. Those of us who know what the number was 10 years ago will appreciate that we have gone this far. And that is not for any other reason but realizing the importance of free zone. What it has done to the Asian countries, to United Arab Emirates, and we believe that the frontier now is coming to Africa. Most businessmen believe that the next place to site their industry for maximum profit is Africa. And the African Free Zone Association is an association that was formed in 2004 in South Africa, when we realized that we just have to come together to discuss our common problems and forge ahead. You see, free zone, the way we know it, and you will agree with me, that no two countries operate free zone the same way. But there are things that are peculiar to a particular area which has to be discussed within and by themselves. And that is why African Free Zone Association was formed. If most countries of Africa have been progressing and making sure that they develop free zone and develop it in the right way. I would say that the number now, the issue now, is not how many countries have free zones, but the question has changed to how many countries don't have. Because from the number I have, and just not to bother you with a lot of information, today we have about above 600 free zones from 36 countries of Africa. I will give you a little, I have the data of the addresses and everything of all the free zones in these countries. I must say that I'm instituting a case against the Arab Union that have taken most of our brothers from Egypt and other ones. And I want them to bring them back to the African Free Zone Association because we are all, yes. Thank you. He's saying that there will be collaboration. Thank you. Having said that, you see, in Africa, we have a lot of variants. We have a lot of names that is used for free zones in Africa. Whichever name that is used, we have looked at the incentive, and you find out that the incentives are the same. Some of the countries have it as free trade zone, some have it as export processing zone, some industrial development zones, like South Africa. Then, like Zambia, they adopted multipurpose zones, free points in Mali and Mauritius, and single factory zones, export processing zones in Ghana. Nigeria used to have it as single factory zones or export processing factories. And some countries we call it free points. Whichever way you go about it, the most important thing is the incentive. And the incentives are generous, to be honest. Most of these countries have looked at what other countries have, modified, and given additional incentive to investors that are interested in their area. The main countries that have developed free zones in Nigeria, the much we have collected so far, the survey is ongoing. You find that we have about 601 free zones in 36 countries. And Ghana is leading with 192 zones, followed with Kenya with about 122. Now, and come Tanzania with 44. Nigeria, where I come from, is having just 32. And I am sure that in the near future, these countries are coming. I have the statistics of all these countries. Like we have Ghana 192, Kenya 122, Tanzania 44, Namibia 41, Nigeria 32, Ethiopia is coming up. What the record we have here is 30, but the real export processing zone is limited. But adding the export processing factories, which are now counted, it gets to that number. Mauritius is there. Togo is also coming very strong with 18. And one funny thing with Togo is that apart from the number that is limited, we have them ranking high when you check among about 700 free zones in the world. Having said that, let me go straight because I can see that Mr. Samuel is already on me. The characteristics of some of these free zones is that they are multi-facility free zones. We have just in the continent today, oil and gas free zone in One and Abuja Technology Village that are coming up. One has been existing since 1997. Abuja Technology Village is coming up, and they are the specialized free zones that we have in the continent for now. We believe that the way they are going, because a lot of zones are now modeling their zones to their comparative advantage, and that is what we advocate. Because there are times when you cannot compete with the developed ones, but there are things that are common with you, which if you concentrate with what you have, and you can be boastful of, you will attract more investors and progress further. So having said that, I want to end this by saying that the free zones in Africa is not without problems, but there is a lot of contributions which they have made to the economy of the continent. And the figure of employment is actually going high, and foreign direct investment is also high which is as a result of those who realize that the continent is the next frontier. And I tell you seriously that with the way the free zone is going, it becomes an advantage, it becomes a business opportunity for free zone consultants and people who come there to teach and model free zones. Because we believe in Africa that since we are coming on this time around, and with those who have done it earlier, like my chairperson, my moderator, who is in Shannon, they must have developed their own about 100 years ago. We believe that if you buy a Mercedes car 20 years ago, and I buy today, and all of us are riding, you don't need to ask who is riding the modern one and who is riding the old model.
Time to ride on, right by now.
Thank you.
From a time perspective. Thank you. Thanks very much, Chris. And if the audience will persist for a few more moments, I'd like to get a perspective from Malaysia, from Datuk Ibrahim. Please, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rose. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever you attend a conference like this, there'll be two sets of people. One who wants to ensure that what they have been doing in their respective economic zones or regions are okay, based on the presentation made by the speakers. And the second set of people would normally be people who wants to find new ideas from, of course, the speakers who would like to share what is happening that makes the region works and successful. So perhaps for the next 4 minutes, I would say, I would like to share what has happened in Iskandar, Malaysia. And as far as the economic growth is concerned, now I hope that I'm okay here. Right. I would like to skip a few slides, if you don't mind. Where is the forward? Sorry. Okay. Now, Iskandar Malaysia is situated in Malaysia, of course, south of Peninsular Malaysia. But the difference here is that it is not really a free trade zone, it is actually an economic region. There is a difference there. Being an economic region, within it would comprise a few zones that are free trade zones. So there is a difference here. So our area covers 2,230 kilometers square. So this has similarities with some of the economic zones, for example, that was established in Europe, particularly in the UK in the 70s and the 80s. Because the whole idea about creating an economic region here is actually to marry the strengths of the components within that region, rather than to be focused on a particular zone. So that is the difference between how we treat the way in which we develop our economy vis-a-vis looking at specific zones. Now, people will ask then, what makes Iskandar have been successful up to this very day? We were established 9 years ago in the year 2006. And perhaps to summarize, I would say these are the 4 items that would really make Iskandar Malaysia being into what it is today. Number 1, it has a plan that clearly charts the future growth for the region. As simple as that. If you don't have a plan, your stakeholders and yourself will not be able to have good guide on it. Secondly, you need to have a facilitator in a form of an authority that would be able to link all of these stakeholders, be it government, be it people, and be it the business community, so that this particular authority will be able to facilitate, to promote, and to enable things to move in the right direction. Now, thirdly, we need to have agencies or corporate bodies that will be able to take what we term as the big development. Development that would normally be able, not normally be able to be undertaken by the ordinary developer or the ordinary investor. So these are what we term as master developers. And thirdly is, of course, we need to, of course, introduce what we term as catalytic projects or catalytic initiatives. And these are important, especially at the early stage of the development, to create the excitement, to create the low-hanging fruit, and to, of course, create the necessary clustering and the spillover effect. Now, this is part of the focus that we are giving into Iskandar Malaysia. We are not a region that brings in any type of economic development. We focus. We look at how global trends are, and we give focus on the service sector, but still giving focus on manufacturing. So these are the 9 sectors which I do not wish to dwell. But at the end of it, we go about creating the necessary employment and the necessary entrepreneurs. Because at the end of the day, we want to create a high-income region. So these are the results of over the last 9 years. So the facts speaks for itself in terms of the number of, among others, investment that we have actually generated over the last 9 years. Now, finally, one important point that I wish to highlight to the audience today is that against all this, in Iskandar Malaysia, we are not only focused on economic growth. We are talking about an economic growth that is sustainable, that would be able to last generations to come. And secondly, an economic growth that is also linked with the need to protect the environment. So these 3 elements make up what we term as sustainability and inclusiveness of development in relation to the economic development of a particular region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time of the evening, I almost don't dare ask if anybody's got any questions, but if anybody has any questions, obviously the panelists are happy to answer them. So if there are any questions. despite Chris negotiating with his friend, that doesn't seem to be. So thank you very much for persisting with us. I know it's late, and we appreciate the fact that you've stayed with us. And we'll see you tomorrow, but there's dinner this evening, and obviously everybody's aware of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rose, everybody. So really, it is about figuring out how to create self-sustaining free zones. That's something that comes across throughout the day. I do question why India whittled down the number of free zones, though. The gentleman, I think, has left the room, but I think that there were other reasons, not just the ones mentioned on stage. Now, tomorrow we'll be back here in the morning. Tonight you have a wonderful gala dinner. Coaches will leave at 6:30 from the entrance of the hotel. Board members, please, Dr. Samir needs you for a signing of an MOU, correct? Thank you very much indeed. See you tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.